All right, welcome back to the Ducks and Pucks talk show. This is your host, Mike Walters, along with my co-host, Eddie Jones. We're going to go over the Teemu night and recap all the great games from this last week as the Ducks won the last four. And we'll look ahead and preview the Calgary Flames game, and we'll look over some trade rumors that have been going on, some injury news for you guys, and answer some questions as well. So where we left off last time, we had done a quick podcast before the Teemu game, and we're going to recap that for you for a little bit here and spend some time. It was a really awesome day. The event before the game was awesome, Eddie, as far as the atmosphere. It was all blacked out. They gave out little blinking lights, and just the whole experience with Teemu coming out there, his speech. I think the most comedy part, of it was Bettman out there saying whether or not he was being booed or the fans are saying Teemu, and how he would take being booed with Teemu at any time. That was some comedy there, but I thought everything overall went really really well, Eddie, and was just a total classy performance by the Ducks organization.
Yeah, and from what I saw, I watched most of it on TV, and from what I saw, it was like you said, a really classy event, and a lot of criticism in the media here from TSN and Sportsnet up here is that it was it was too long, and it was like an hour and 26 minutes, but like you gotta realize this is the first in franchise history, right? So an hour and 26 minutes isn't that bad, and it's Teemu, and it's the first banner, number retiring in franchise history. So all in all, I think it was a really cool night, and they did a great job, handing out those lights like you said, and bringing everybody up to speech. And even Paul Kariya got cheered when he didn't show up, but when he was on the monitor, he even got cheered. So it was a really good night all in all.
Yeah, and I mean, even if the Canadian media is upset about the length of time, I mean, you got to remember this is Teemu. I
Yeah.
mean, I don't know of any other bigger name in hockey, and if you don't think he's the biggest name to retire this year, then he's in the top five at least. I mean, come on, he's up there, and yeah, that was one thing. It was a long day as far as they told everybody to be in their seats at 4:15, and it didn't start at 4:15. I can't remember. It was like maybe 4:30 or a little bit after that, and then obviously, the game was originally slated at 5, and they put it at 6 because of the retirement. But then it didn't start till it was after 6:30. But honestly, during that whole time, I don't even know what time it was. To be honest, I mean, you're just sitting there taking it all in. I don't even know. So. I mean, maybe it's difficult for some of the people at home that watched it, but I mean, I'll have to tell you, being there in person, I didn't even know what time it was. It was just a great tribute. I think one of the other things I liked was we posted some of the photos up was the pregame skate. They had all the
Yeah.
Winnipeg Jets in his jersey, and then the Ducks, they had him in multiple jerseys. When he had number 13, when he had 8 for all his different ones, and I don't know. I thought that was really a good idea that they had done for the pregame warm up.
Yeah, I was gonna mention that too. It's kind of cool to see that, like something small, but it was really cool to see them come out in all the different jerseys he's worn, and with the 8 and all the Jets even coming out with the 13 was classy on their part too. But yeah, I think it was just when you're looking at it from not being a Ducks fan, it could have been too long, but. Yeah, you just got to keep going back to the fact that it's Timu, and it's the first one in the franchise history, and maybe if the second one's just as long, you can criticize it a bit more because it's not Timu, and we've been there, done that. But from I can only imagine being there, and how how awesome it would have been to be there. But even watching on TV, it was a cool experience too.
Yeah, I don't even think there was a dry eye in the building. I mean, especially when they had the carpet out there with the rectangle with Temu's signature on it. He came out there and stood there, and then they had, I don't know what it was, but some kind of a device on the ice where the banner was rolled up in it, and they lifted it out. And I was fortunate because this, as most people know, I'm in section 416, so I was on that side and got to see it, and it's just there's just no words to describe how amazing it was, that whole part. And then of course his whole family, joins them as they raised it all the way up. And it just he just can't. There's no words to describe just how great of a feeling it was, because not only was it Teemu, but like you said, it's the first one in the Ducks organization, and it is just truly a classy and amazing event all around. And but then you turn to the game, and well, the beginning of the game, Eddie, I thought, man, this is going to be horrible. I mean, the Ducks, Raquel got a goal after Evander Kane did for the Jets, but then the Jets got two more goals, and I mean, the Ducks were down 3-1 after the first period, and I remember a lot of people were like, "Come on, you got to win this game for Teemu."
Yeah, and it looked like one of those games where they played pretty decent, but it was just a bad first period, and not a complete game, and it looked like they just pretty much gave up right off the bat. Obviously, Vander Kane's goal, and a quick response on the power play, but right after that, not maybe a little bit over a minute later, Bogosian scores on even strength for Winnipeg, and they pot one before the end of the first period's over, and it did look like a good start, and a lot of people were saying obviously you got to win this for Teemu, and not that maybe the ceremony being so long might have affected how ready they were for the game, but moving into the second period, they showed a little bit more promise. Pavlik was, to be fair, Pavlik was on his game for most of it. Even though the Ducks ended up scoring 4 goals, they had 43 shots on net, and he was pretty solid for most of the night. And even with Getzlaf and Perry not getting on the score sheet, it was secondary scoring that came through, and more so Raquel, when he obviously recorded 4 points in the game. So
Yeah, the third period was crazy. That's all I can tell you. I remember, again, like all of the penalty calls that the Ducks got at the end of the second period, that carried over to the third period, and the Ducks had to kill off all those penalties. I thought, you know what, Eddie, here we go, New Year's Eve all over again. We got all these penalties. We're going to give up a goal, and this, it's going to be over. It almost flowed the same way. But the Ducks, that third period, you have to give the penalty kill the credit, because they kill off all those penalties, and then Palmieri gets that goal at just over the 6 minute mark, and now everybody's sitting there going, okay, we're down by one, we could do this, and then when Raquel with a huge goal with just over 2 minutes left, I mean, the place exploded. That was just crazy. I was just, it was awesome. That third period, the way that the Ducks rallied back and played, and then no scoring in the overtime, and then as we've seen before, the Ducks gone a shootout, and God, shootouts just stress the hell out of me, especially this one. I mean,
there's been in so
because
many of them this season, it's almost becoming normal. So
yeah, and then in this one, it didn't go three shooters. It went six shooters, and I mean, there was just. Oh, I was just glad that Botman buried that last one and pulled it out for us.
yeah, and it's fitting. Botman too is the only Finnish player on the team, and he ends up being the one putting it away. But definitely nail biting when Kessler has to be the one to keep the shootout going. He keeps it going, and then Kane scores, and Raquel has to keep it going. He adds to his top class night, and then Vatanen is the one to put it away, to top off a great night in team history, and one that a lot of people aren't going to forget for a while.
Yeah, it's kind of something that someone else had mentioned. I can't remember, they had posted this summer, but something that was interesting is that through the three periods of play, it was 4-4. So someone was saying, well, 4-4, that Temu's number 8, and then they talked about the shootout, and you added the shootout goals, and it came out to 13, which is Temu's other number that he had at Winnipeg, and some people may have forgot, but he did have that for a short time on the Mighty Ducks as well. And then the shot total by the periods was 43, which is Temu's age. So it was just kind of interesting. Someone was looking at all the numbers, and just weird how they all kind of, I don't know.
Got aligned,
I can't
yeah,
explain it.
yeah. I didn't know that though.
Yeah.
That's actually pretty interesting too. And I know we've talked about this before too, and we talked about this in the preseason when we were analyzing this game and how this night was going to be. But who do you think is the next person to have their jersey retired, and like when do you think is the appropriate time to move on to that presentation?
It's a good question because a lot of people talk, they throw out a lot of names. I've heard, Pronger's been out there, Korea, Niedermeyer, Bear. I mean, there's a lot of names that throw out there. Me personally, I think Jaguar should be the next one. That's just who I feel. I think because I mean, yeah, Teemu, of course, helped the franchise. That's the no-brainer. But Jaguar did too, and Jaguar almost won it for the then Mighty Ducks in 2003. Did it for the Ducks in '07. So to me, he would be the next logical one, and it would be to me it would be next season. Um, I don't know when they would do it if they tried to pick an opponent. I mean, they could do Colorado since he was there, but it was a short time. Obviously, the Hartford Whalers aren't around. Um, so if they don't do that, it could be, maybe opening day kind of a thing, or I don't know, maybe against the Avalanche, Eddie. That's kind of what I'm leaning to. What do you think?
Yeah, I don't think obviously he was drafted by Calgary, but it's not good memories for him with Calgary. So I don't think playing Calgary, maybe end of the season kind of thing, or like you said, opening day. And I agree with you, and Jaguar is probably the most logical option. Of course, of what he's done for the Ducks and how the fan reception he got on Team Unite, and there's no one in really who's a Ducks fan that hates him. So it kind of that you can put Paul Kariya in that discussion, but then there's obviously the problems with some of the fans. The step forward in that presentation with all the cheers he got for seeing him. But that could just be everybody was just happy that night, and you talk to a lot of fans and they're still bitter about how he left. So I think with Jaguar is probably the most logical option, and if not next season, then the season after it, and like you said, against Colorado or an opening day kind of season-ending ceremony.
Yeah, I agree with you, Eddie. I mean, that's where I'm leaning towards, and I'm not saying that he's the only one. Obviously, there's some other players like some of the names I've thrown out there that have done tremendous for the Ducks. So I mean, there could be more than one. I mean, I'm just saying that's the most logical one in my opinion. I mean, it might not be him. Maybe they do throw Niedermeyer or somebody else up there. I don't know, but I just think based upon everything, just like you said, the what he's done for the franchise, the way the fans, like Jaguar, just like they like Teemu, that's who I would go with.
Yeah, and then I think after you kind of go through those names, it's that you got to look down the road, 10, 20 years, and you might you'll see Getzlaf possibly. I wouldn't doubt it down the road, with what Getzlaf has done and what he still has to go left in his career. Getzlaf and Perry are definitely will be in the discussion down the road as well.
Yeah, I think you're right. If you if you look at the current team right now and the people most likely to do it, I definitely think Perry and Getzlaf for sure. I mean, as we'll talk about in some of these other games here, the way the play has gone, actually, in the follow up to this game, the Ducks played Toronto, and a little bit of payback. Toronto had a streak going against us. We hadn't beat them in, I can't remember the exact number, but it had been going back to like the '08 or '09 season or something like that. And, finally we take them out, and Perry basically just goes off and gets his third hat trick of the season, Eddie.
Yeah, and I wish they would have done that in the last three games they played in Toronto, because I was at all three of those games and they lost all three of them. So, but it's nice to get some revenge. Obviously, Anderson having a strong game and picking up the shutout. And I think this game was the beginning of the next three games, like this one, the Devils game and the LA game, where they played three complete games where they played. When we talked about this a number of times in previous podcasts, and how they have to play 60 minutes. Where they've fallen asleep for a first period, a second period, a third period, and it's almost cost them the game, and they've been having to scrape out 1 goal wins. And this was a dominating performance, and you look at the score and you would think, Toronto didn't show up, but they actually played a pretty solid game, and the Ducks just, they wanted it more. They played great defense, great goaltending, and the timely scoring from, obviously Perry and Palmieri picking up another goal and just playing solid hockey for 60 minutes.
No, I totally agree. I mean, that game was one of the best. I mean, yeah, like you said, Toronto actually outshot the Ducks in that game, 28-25. So it wasn't like they weren't playing well. Toronto also won the faceoff battle in that game. The key was the Ducks. They shut them out on the power play in 3 attempts, and they got goals in a timely manner. And all, obviously Perry was the one behind all that, and that makes his third hat trick of the season. And I saw someone else. They asked Dan Wood the other day, what's the record, and in a season. And in case anybody was wondering, it's actually held by Wayne Gretzky. He's got 10
Yeah.
in a season, two different times.
Yeah,
I mean,
you had to think it was going to be Gretzky, and that 10 is probably somewhere in his 92 goal season, and one of those records which it would take a ridiculously special player to break. But I can see Perry picking up maybe 2 or 3 more at most, though.
yeah, and that was the question. They were trying to see, if they could catch the record, and if Perry didn't have the mumps and the injured and all that, it might have been interesting to see what he would have done. Because we had talked about him getting 50 goals this season, and we thought that would be no problem. Now we're looking at 30 to 40, which still nothing to be shy of. I mean that's awesome with all the stuff he's had to overcome. But yeah, that's just one of those records. Along like they talked about with like Temu's 76 goals in his rookie season. I mean that's just I don't know. That's going to be a hard one for someone to
Yeah,
try
it's
and beat.
just the game today, and how different it is from when Teemu was a rookie, and when Gretzky played, and you don't see the 70 goal seasons that often anymore. You kind of saw the last of it when Ovechkin was first in the league, and you don't really see it that often. You see some guys break 50 in like stretch 60, but those are obviously elite players in the league. And I think Perry is a type of player who can do it. He just has to get on a roll and stay in it. Obviously, he's missed 15 games this season, which is significant. He could have around 25 30 goals already, and then we would still be talking about him being on pace for 50. But with the way he shoots the puck and his shooting percentage, I still think he can reach 30, 40 this year, but he would have to go on a tear to reach 50.
Yeah, I mean he'd have to go on a monster tear. I mean he'd have to score, basically every
Mm-hmm.
night. Which I mean I'm not saying he can't do that because, as we saw, he scored 3 goals in this Toronto game, and then he picked up the first goal, following against the Devils on Friday night. So he scored 4 in a row, for the Ducks in 2 games. So we'll have to see how it goes. It'll be interesting. He started the play in that game against the Devils early, 4 minutes into the game, and then the Devils answered back with Martin Havlet's goal on the power play. But after that, it was all Ducks, Eddie. Another, like we talked about, another 60-minute performance when the Ducks pulling out 5-1 4-goal victory. I mean, I was joking with some of my friends and people that sit around me. We were talking about how I can't handle these last 2 games. There's no stress.
Yeah, I know, and even with that Havlat goals on the power play, you could even say they dominated that whole game. And this is one of the most complete games we've seen this season. 40 shots on net, limiting them to 15 shots against, which when you have Gallivan and the way he's been playing this season was really important for him to limit the shots. And some teams get 15 shots a period, and you can limit. The Devils aren't obviously a great team, but you limit any team in the NHL to 15 shots, and you're most likely going to win the game. And obviously the Ducks came out and won big, and Perry got another goal, and just solid games from Lindholm had a great game. He picked up 2 points, very physical, laid a huge check too, and Silfverberg had 2 goals. So it was just a quality game all around.
Oh yeah, I mean, and how about Silverberg? We always talk about him on the shootouts, which we'll talk about that in a minute against the Kings. But I mean, he came up big in this game with 2 goals, and he had some chances. He could have nearly had his own hat trick too.
Yeah, he's only got 6 on the season, but as a guy that you thought, we definitely thought was going to get around 20 this season. Hasn't worked out for him, obviously, but he's been beneficial in other areas, and with the shot that he has, obviously we've seen it in the shootout when he's alone on the goalie. He makes no mistake, and putting him, he scored on the power play. Putting him in those situations will definitely give him a chance to score more goals.
And in addition to that, how about Bolesky? He gets benched against Toronto. We'll talk a little bit more about that a little bit later in the show. But how about he comes out and lays that massive check, gets obviously thrown into a fighting scenario, and just goes off. I mean, that was one of the best fights I had seen, Eddie, for the Ducks this season.
Yeah, and that's what he brings. Obviously, the goal scoring has been something, or at the amount of goal scoring he's had is something new this season. We obviously have seen his physical side throughout his career with Anaheim, and it's one of the, like you said, one of the best fights this season, at least for the Ducks, and if not in the league. And him getting benched has brought out a lot of rumors, like you said, and we're going to discuss that later too. But his play this season, maybe I don't think there's anything to worry about. I think Boudreau either was just saving him for the rest of the game or saw something he didn't like and benched him for the rest of the game. But I don't think it's too much to worry about.
Yeah, and we'll go into that a little bit later. We'll recap here the last game. Obviously, yesterday the 3-2 shootout win. That's what happens when the Ducks play the Kings. Every game has gone to overtime. We won the first one 6-5 and lost the second one 2-3, and now here we are, and we win this one 3-2. Eddie, and this was a game where it was kind of a the Ducks actually played well, but they were down 2-1 through 2 periods of play.
Yeah, and even we've seen a lot of close games this season where we said the Ducks didn't play a complete game, but I feel this was just close to a 60-minute game and a 1-goal game you can have. They played great throughout the whole game. Obviously, letting 2 goals in. Both goaltenders were good. Anderson ended up getting the first start in the game. Maroon picking up 2 assists. It was a good team effort, and obviously Silverberg comes in the shootout and does what he does and wins us the game. But going into Staples Center where the Kings have been unbelievable this season. Obviously, their road record is one of the worst in the league, but they have one of the top home records in the league, and going there and snagging the extra point is definitely a plus.
Yeah, I mean that's the key is getting that extra point. Especially against the Kings and another division opponent, because that's what we're going to be looking forward to as well. We're going to be playing another 3 or 4 here Pacific Division teams. So always getting that's good. I mean, you'd like to get that regulation win, but I don't know. It just doesn't matter if the Ducks are doing well or doing poorly or the Kings. Same. I mean, it's just these games are always tight games, Eddie, for some
Yeah,
reason.
and we see Anderson pick up his the 5th game against the Kings. He's a 4-0-1 lifetime against the Kings in 2 seasons. Obviously, he was dominant against them last season, and he's picked up where he left off this season too. And the Ducks improved their 1-goal game record to 22-0-6, which is a little bit unbelievable when you see it. But this is the kind of effort they're going to need if they're going to want to go far in the playoffs. You need to win these 1-goal games, and against teams like the Kings, even though they're struggling, they're still the defending Stanley Cup champions. So you got to bring a 60-minute effort, and they definitely did this in this game. So.
Yeah, and one of the keys that we talked about too was the face-offs, and the Ducks didn't dominate in the face-offs. They edged them by a couple more, but I mean that's what you're going to have to do with the Kings. You're going to have to, if not, dominate them in the face-off, you got to at least be able to hang with them in the face-off circle. You got to be even or ahead, because if you let them win the face-offs and control the tempo of the game, it's going to be a long night, Eddie.
Yeah, and it's not about you don't have to beat them in the faceoffs. It's just about having those guys who can win those key faceoffs for you in the defensive zone, and that's something we didn't have in the playoffs last year. There's a lot of times where we'd be in our own end, we'd throw Getzlaf out there almost every time, and we wouldn't be able to win the faceoff. Now you've got Kessler and Thompson who can win those key faceoffs in the defensive zone and be able to clear out the area and relieve some of the pressure. So it's definitely going to be key, and we saw it in this game, and hopefully we're going to see it in the playoffs too. If the Kings actually make the playoffs, though.
Yeah, I mean, you're looking at them right now. They've been teetering between eighth, ninth, and 10th place, Eddie. I mean, it's going to be interesting because some people have said, hey, if the Ducks finish first and the Kings finish eighth, they'd want to play the Kings in the first round because they want us to pay back the Kings. I don't know. What do you feel about that? Would you want the Ducks to play the Kings in the first round, or would you rather them not make the playoffs and then we just play whoever?
Well, as it looks right now, it's in the first round, it's between the Kings and LA if the season finished. Right now the Calgary's in the 8th spot and the Kings are in the 9th spot. They're tied on points. Calgary edging them in regulation overtime wins, but Vancouver's sitting above them with some games in hand and 2 points on them. San Jose's up there too, Winnipeg, and those are teams I feel like maybe Winnipeg maybe will slump a bit, but teams you don't really feel like are gonna fall too far down. So you're looking at Calgary, LA, Colorado if they can bring it together in the first round, and it's not a either even Calgary playing them in the first round, it seems like an easy matchup, but Calgary is a pretty scrappy team, and it's obviously a better matchup than LA because of the experience. I'd like to see LA not make the playoffs, but either or not going to be an easy matchup. No matchup in the playoffs is an easy one, but we still got a little bit less than half a season to go, so anything can change by then.
Yeah, you're absolutely right, Eddie. And looking forward to this week. The Ducks just have that game against Calgary, and there's there's a little bit more at stake when we play Calgary now, and especially if we play them in the playoffs, because you have Hiller and net, and I mean he hasn't played awesome for them. He's 13 and 13 and 2, but his goals against is 2.48 and save percentage 911. So he's not done terrible for Calgary. And like you said, Calgary is a team that it's got some balanced scoring. You've got 5 guys on that team with over 10 goals. And they're a tough team, and we've seen that too when we've played them in the last couple games. That you either get in these shootout type of games or you get in these back and forth style, and it's very, very physical when we play Calgary.
Yeah, and they've surprised everybody. I think this season, just as much as teams like Nashville surprised and Winnipeg and how well they've played, and you're thinking they'd be one of the bottom teams, and they're sitting in a playoff spot halfway through the season. So Goudreau has definitely helped them a lot in goal scoring, and plays from Brody and Giordano on defense has helped them out a lot. And they've just had, like you said, Hiller's win ratio isn't the greatest, but his numbers are good, and Kari Ramo has been good for them, and recently Yoni Ordio has been really good for them too. So they've got 3 goalies they're rolling that are doing well, and they've got guys. They've got goal scoring, which is fine. Defense is playing well. They're just got and they've strung together 3 wins in a row too. So the 2 hottest teams in the West right now are going to be facing off. So it's going to be a close game.
Yeah, I think so too. I think this one's going to be a tight battle as well. I don't think it's. I mean, the Ducks again. We talk about this like we're broken records, but I mean, again, it's a game we should win, but it's not going to be easy, and nor is any game in the NHL. Like we've said, everything is lucky bounces sometimes, or calls going a certain way, or just that's the nature of the sport, and that's why we love it so much. Is that crazy things can happen at any time, and we'll have to see. I think the Ducks pulled this one out, but I wouldn't be surprised if it's another 1-goal game, Eddie.
Yeah, I definitely think they should be winning it. And Calgary's a pretty fast team. They're a little bit physical with some of the lines that get out there, but they still got guys like Raymond and Goudreau, and even Monahan, who's still in a sophomore season. So They're not a big team. Play the physical, forechecking style the Ducks can play, and tire them out early, and just get some past the goal, past the hot goalies that they're playing. I'm not sure who's gonna play right now. I think if I'm to believe Ramo is hurt, or one of Hiller or Ramo are hurt, so Ordio might be getting the start. Getting the win after playing against San Jose recently, so he might be getting the start for them. But either way, facing any of those goalies right now is going to be a tough task, and I think tiring them out early is going to be one of the keys to success.
Yeah, I totally agree, Eddie. And looking now at the Ducks team and some of the news going on, the biggest one that people have been throwing around lately has been Bolesky and some of the trade rumors that have been going on. Bolesky was benched in the game against Toronto, and the word was that Boudreau didn't like his play. Basically, on Teemu night and the game before that, I guess he didn't think he was giving a full effort. He only had like one shot on goal. He wasn't hustling as much, and so he gets benched in that Toronto game. And then all of a sudden, everybody's trade. All the stuff's going around on Facebook and Twitter. Everyone's talking about trades. But what rumors have you heard about Bolesky, and then what do you think about any of them?
I've only heard of some rumors from fans, and I'm not sure where the rumors have actually come from regarding Bolesky. I've heard people saying Bolesky for Taylor Hall straight up. I've heard nothing other than from fans with that one. I highly doubt Ella. That's the type of return Edmonton's looking for. A lot of fans saying they wouldn't want to give up Bolesky straight up for Taylor Hall. Taylor Hall's obviously not the type of player we need. Obviously, he's one of the best left wings in the league, and but with the way Bolesky's played this season, and I think him getting benched for one game doesn't mean we're going to trade him. The way the Ducks are playing right now, and how well he's playing, obviously his value isn't going to be higher than it's ever going to be. But trading him, I don't think that's really on the cards for Bob Murray right now. But for Taylor Hall, I think it would take a lot more for the Ducks to have to get to pry Taylor Hall away from Edmonton. I have heard rumors though with Taylor Hall. If the Ducks were looking to get him, Edmonton would be looking at either one of Vatanen or Fowler, or Lindholm or Gibson, somewhere in that aspect. They'd be more looking to bring in a defenseman, a young one or a young goalie, something they need more than a guy like Bolesky. But yeah, other than that, I've heard a little bit of Emerson Edom. His play hasn't been good this season. Obviously, he's been sent down. He's probably, if we have any asset, he's probably the most valuable one right now. So if anybody gets moved, obviously Brizgalov, if Gibson comes back from injury, or I think Edom is probably the most likely one to get moved, if anybody.
Yeah, and you mentioned Gibson in there, and people have asked about Gibson. And I guess he's played a couple games in Norfolk, but he's kind of been MIA. I haven't really heard much of an update on him. I've been asking around some of my sources to see what's going on. But other than dealing with he had his groin issue obviously, and then he had some type of flu too, because I remember he had to come out from one game in Norfolk. I haven't heard anything else, Eddie. Have you heard anything with Gibson as far as what's the status?
I not until I actually looked it up, and it took a while to look it up. Today when I was looking up before the podcast, apparently, as of this article was written on January 9th, he started 3 games for Norfolk. He started in a 42 save, a 3-2 shootout loss, and then a 22 save, 2-1 loss on December 30th against Hershey, and his last game was a 31 save, 3-2 overtime loss on January 2nd. And then apparently LaBarbera started the last 2 games after that. And then there's 3 games that Norfolk has played since then, and I'm not sure if Gibson has started any of those, but he seems to be back healthy. I don't know if he's going to get called up. It looks like the Ducks are going to be running with Anderson and Brizgalov for the foreseeable future, or for at least most of the season, unless Gibson gets called up. I could see him getting a couple more call-ups and seeing how he does, but it looks like they're gonna run with Brizgalov right now, and if maybe pull up LeBarbara, but Anderson has been the guy this season, and he's on pace to start 74 games. So it doesn't really look like they're gonna want to call up Gibson just for a couple starts.
Yeah, I agree with you, Eddie. I think especially even with Brizgalov's first couple shaky starts, it seems like Brizgalov has gotten better each game. Obviously, granted, the Ducks defense was dominant in that Devils game, only giving up 15 shots. But as I was sitting there watching the game, I was nervous when he started, but he looked a lot better. So I think if he can play that kind of a game like he did against the Devils the rest of the way, I really don't think that the Ducks will bring up Gibson. I think, like you said, they're just going to roll with Freddie, and then on the back-to-back scenarios, they'll just throw Brizgalov out there.
Yeah, and you might as well. I know we talked with Danny earlier in the season, and she said it's probably best if Gibson, plays another season in the AHL, and if we have two guys playing, obviously Anderson's playing brilliant this season, and if Brizgalov's playing decent, there's no point to force him into some starts unless somebody picks up a small injury. You need him for backup a game, or start maybe one or two games for the rest of the season. But yeah, there's no need to rush it. If he's gonna start the majority of the games for Norfolk, you might just leave him down there and get some playing time.
Yeah, I totally agree. And like you said, also going back to some of the trade stuff, I think, I don't think the Ducks move Bolesky. I mean, I'm not gonna, you know, you know, say that it won't happen, but I think that's highly unlikely. And I think, like you said, maybe somebody like Edom might be the one that would go, or some other draft pick or something like that. If we do make some kind of a big move towards the end, I don't see anything really going on right now because, like I said, all the rumors have just been fan based. There's nothing out there that I've heard from any of the actual NHL media or any of the team sources I know or anything out of Norfolk. So I think we'll just leave it at that for now, and I think we'll be good going forward, Eddie.
Yeah, I definitely think so. And moving on. I know we talked about this last week with Jake, and we're not going to go as much into it as we did last week with the voting and everything on the All Star game. But obviously, there's only one Duck this year, and it's Getzlaf. Perry missed out on any of the voting. Do you think it's? I know we got a question. Do you think it's a crime that that only one Duck is in it? Do you think there's anybody else that deserves to be on it? Perry, maybe Vaughn and Kessler, Bolesky, Anderson, anybody else? Do you think that deserves to be on the All Star team this season?
Yeah, I know. We got that question from Alex, like you said, and yeah, I mean, I think the fans are a little disappointed. I mean, Getzlaf deserves to be there for sure. And we talked about Perry and Perry being out for a short time, but Perry's still up there in the league. I mean, the three hat tricks. He's been playing well. I don't see any reason why Perry couldn't have gotten in there. Anderson too with his play. I mean, he's been doing outstanding as well. I know it's tough. We've got some other good goalies out there too. I mean, we can't take away from them as well, but if one other player from the Ducks was to make it, I would have thought one of those two, Eddie, either Perry or Anderson, might have been able to get a spot on that roster. Those are the other main two. I mean, we've got other great players like you mentioned, Vatanen and Kessler, but as far as actually not going by fan votes, which it seems like Chicago has the most fans that like to vote online, I guess. I don't know, but those are the two that I would think that if not both, one of them could have made it.
Yeah, and you look at a lot of the goalies this season, and obviously Anderson's been great, and he started most of the games this season. But I think he's probably in the discussion if you're gonna vote off how the top five goalies in the league or the top six goalies in the league. But Price deserved to be there. Jimmy Howard deserved to be there. Pekka Rinne deserved to be there until both Rinne and Howard got injured. Fleury deserves to be there. A couple other guys. Maybe Anderson deserves to be there over Bobrovsky, based on the Ducks' position on the league compared to Columbus' position on the league. I think it's debatable for Anderson, but I think there's no question Perry deserves to be there over some of the players that made it in there. Verbata's been good this season, but Perry still has 29 points in 31 games. It's not like he missed a significant time, but he's still doing well for the games that he's played, and the 19 goals is keeping pace with some guys who've already played 45, 46 games this season. So I think Perry not being there is a real shame, and there's a lot of guys. Zegmas Girgensson was the beneficiary of the voting system, obviously getting in, having a pretty decent season, but getting in because of Latvia voting him in, him being the only Latvian player in the league. So I think the voting definitely needs to be changed, and just pick the 36 best players in the league on that season, and those are the guys who should be going to the game.
Yeah, I agree with you, Eddie. The voting's got to be changed. I mean, either you don't do it and you go with the 36 best, or you go with the 30 or 32 best and let the fans pick, but only a handful. You can't let them. It's just too much when you have all these Blackhawk players on there. I mean, come on. I mean, don't get me wrong. The Blackhawks are a great team and they're playing well and stuff. But I mean, you look at what's going on this season, and they're not playing as well as they have been playing. I mean, you've got the Ducks that are playing well. Nashville's playing well. I mean, you got to have the best players out there, period. And I think if not all of them are picked by their level of performance, throughout the season, then you got to have, I would say, at least 30 or more picked, by the league and not by the fans.
Yeah, you see a lot of national players in there. You see Rene, and I believe Weber's there, Philip Forsberg. The guys that deserve to be there from Nashville, probably the three best players this season. And you see a lot of guys from Chicago, like you said, they're struggling. They're still up there, but they are struggling. If they're at 58 points, and they could be at 62 if they put them on a games that the Ducks have played. But you only see one Ducks player, and they are, to be fair, they are leading the league. And obviously, Getzlaf has been the standout guy, and Perry's been good. But I think Perry, Anderson, and Getzlaf deserve to be there. Maybe not so much anybody else, but when you're the top team in the league for most of the season and only one of your guys goes, it's definitely weird to see. So I hope they change it around, but I don't see them doing it anytime soon.
Yeah, I agree, Eddie. And then moving on to our three stars, in this last week has been a great week with the Ducks going 4-0, basically winning all four of their contests. Which three players do you think would be deserving of being, 1, 2, or 3? Not necessarily in that order, but the top three for this week.
I definitely think Raquel. Just he had that one great game, and the rest of the 3 games he only picked up assists. But when you get 4 points in a game and really helped us win that game against Winnipeg, I definitely got to give one of the stars to him for sure. And other than that, I think Perry with getting the hat trick against the Leafs, and then picking up a goal again against the New Jersey the night after. And then I think the third one would be Anderson, just getting a shutout. Obviously didn't start against the Devils, but then playing a solid game against the Kings. So I think those are the 3 guys I'd pick for this week.
Yeah, and I can't disagree with you on that at all. I think Raquel's performance on the Teemu night was just amazing. I mean, he basically saved the night for that team. We didn't mention it earlier too, but not only did he have the 2 goals and the 2 assists, but don't forget he had that wicked backhand goal in the shootout as well, Eddie. I mean, that one brought the Honda Center exploded on that play too, Eddie. That was a really good move that he put on that kept the Ducks in that shootout. So yeah, for sure Raquel has to be up there. Perry, obviously hat trick, scored 4 goals in a row over 2 games for the Ducks. Hopefully he stays healthy, and we can already tell he's back as far as his game conditioning and scoring and whatnot. And as you mentioned, Anderson for sure. He didn't have his best game on the Teemu night, but he battled back with the shutout performance, and he played really well against the Kings. One of those goals that the Kings got, I remember it took a weird bounce or something like that, and he still battled back and he shut him out in the shootout, and they didn't even get a goal in that shootout, Eddie.
Yeah, you could. There's a couple other guys you could, put in the contention for that third star spot of the week. Getzlaff had another solid week, but he's had a good week almost every week this year. So, and I think Palmieri too, he had a pretty good week. So I think you can add those guys to the discussion, but I think Raquel obviously runs away with it, and Perry's up there too, and then Anderson getting a shutout and a good performance of the King just kind of against the Kings just kind of puts it over the top.
Exactly. Yeah, I couldn't agree with you anymore on the 3 stars for sure for this week. And a couple other little just tidbits to give people to remember out there is I don't know if people were aware, but Teemu Selanne is actually officially on Twitter now. He's on there. It's at Teemu and then Selanne, and then the way the Selanne is spelled out, the A is an 8. So he is actually on there. I know some of you asked me, is this legit? And yes, it is. The actual Ducks Twitter put it out there. It is him. And it's just amazing, Eddie, to see last night. I put out a tweet saying, follow him, get him up to 10,000. And here we are this morning. He's up to 20,000.
Yeah, and I'm surprised they didn't work a little bit harder to get him an easier Twitter handle. But either way, he's on Twitter now, and it's gonna be interesting to see the kind of tweets he puts out. But he's only put out two so far. One said he's finally here. The other one was congratulating Rob Blake on getting his jersey retired. So he's already up to 20,000. I'm sure he's gonna be over 100,000 within the month. So. It's nice to see him on Twitter. So we'll see how it goes for him.
Yeah, it should be pretty hilarious, Eddie. And also for some of you out there, this was kind of a pain, but I actually used my phone and I recorded the entire Teemu Selanne retirement ceremony. So if you're listening to this and you missed it for some reason, it's on our podcast through the YouTube channel. So you go to YouTube / and then just Ducks and Pucks podcast. It's on there. It's in the entirety from the beginning till the end. I actually propped up my phone so it wouldn't shake. It was kind of a makeshift stand I had to do, Eddie, but I had it run for the 80 minutes, and I was able to get it, and it's up on there. And I know some of you have asked about the copyright thing, and I had gone back and forth with this, and basically the way it works is that I'm able to put it on there, obviously giving credit to the NHL because that's who did it, and I don't get any kind of money or anything like that, from it at all. What happens is YouTube and the NHL, they put on it, and whatever advertisements they put on there, and they're basically making money off me, which I don't really care. That's fine, but I've got the whole thing on there for all of you out there. So if you are hanging out and you have a little hour or so of time, you want to go back and look, you can watch it on there, and it's from the beginning of the broadcast right to when the banner's raised, and when they go to cut back to the announcers is right when I cut it. So it's there for the fans, Eddie.
Yeah, and I believe also if the Bleacher Report and I think Sportsnet.ca as well have the TV version on their website. I was looking at a couple tidbits of news earlier, and I believe I saw the Teemu ceremony on Bleacher Report. So you can check that out, and I'm sure somewhere has it. NHL.com might have it if you want to watch the TV broadcast, but if not, you can just head on over to our YouTube and the whole thing's right there. So obviously thanks to Mike for recording you guys. I know we had a lot of people asking if we were gonna have it, so you guys can go out there and if you got, like you said, you got an hour, you can go and watch the whole thing. So.
Yeah, and I watched it twice, so I mean it was good. I mean I zoomed through it. I picked out parts and stuff. So, but it's there, and you can go through things as well and stuff. I know a lot of the other media's out there kind of broke it up in sections. So, but at least it's there if you want to watch it. And I know it's gotten a lot of views, obviously. So that's a good thing. And also, just stay tuned. I'll be posting, more photos and things. I'm going to head down to the Selanne Steakhouse later today. I'll have my Selanne Hero shirt on and take a photo with the little cup on there. So I'll be posting some of those photos later. And just make sure you check out all our shirts. We had a couple of designs that actually I have been holding on to them for a little bit for the right timing. and it worked out well this week, Eddie. I had the Scory Perry shirt with the 3 pucks, when Perry got that hat trick, that worked out well, and then the Why You Have to Be Mad shirt with Brizgalov, which people laughed and been buying that one. So, but we always welcome ideas too. If you are listening to this and you're like, we should do this shirt or that shirt, always hit us up, email us, Twitter, Facebook, whatever, and work on ideas. But the shirts are up there. It's on it's DNP hockey.com, so you just can go on there and look. And I'll post out links on Facebook and Twitter, but you can check out the shirts there and stuff. And the anti-King shirt that we've had, it's on sale now for $12. So, enter in the code BEATLA since the Ducks won last night, which that worked out well as well, since we've had that shirt since last season. But it's going good, so stay tuned with that. We're also going to have more giveaways. We gave away 2 of the Teemu Selanne hockey cards this last week to honor Teemu, and we're also giving away tickets to the season finale. So make sure you subscribe to the podcast and the email list, and keep up with all the news that we have on here. And we'll have some other giveaways too as well throughout the season. And thanks for all your support, and we'll be back in a week.
The Anaheim Ducks are the Stanley Cup champions.